Hey guys, and welcome to a new video where I would like to analyze one of my games I played very recently, just 2 days ago in the Belgian League. And when driving to Belgium, I brought this book with me, and I'm pretty sure all of you guys, well, you should know it by now. The Game Changer by Matthew Sadler and Natasha Regan. Um, it's, I mean, it's such a revolutionary book, and um, in case you don't know it, buy it, read it, you probably thank me later. It's about AlphaZero's groundbreaking strategies and everything that's happening concerning AlphaZero and his new playing style that he's bringing to the chat world. And I was reading this book in the car, and I was just reading about his playing style and how you can implement it in your own games. And when I got there, we played the game. And during the game, I noticed some crazy similarities between what happened in the game and what I just read about AlphaZero. And even after the game, when analyzing, I noticed even more similarities. Um, it's just an entertaining game, and I was surprised by how easy it is to implement these AlphaZero strategies. So let me show you the game. I was playing black against Mr. Rusev, who's well, a fairly strong player, around 23 high level, and he was playing with white. I was playing black, and the opening went pretty calm. We went for the semi-Slav, and he actually went for the slow Slav with e3. And the slow Slav is, well, it's called slow Slav because it's rather slow, and not always you get very exciting position out of it. But this game turned out to be totally different. Um, So this is all still theory, and I'm not gonna talk too much about um, this whole opening discussion or whatever. So he went for g3, bishop e7, bishop d2, bishop h5, and this is a somewhat interesting move. The idea is just to put pressure on this f3 pawn. I mean, he played g3 and e3, so that means f3 is becoming a bit weak. And the knight is covering this pawn, but the knight is also a bit awkward placed on h4. So I was hoping to put some pressure on him and maybe evoke some sort of mistake or inaccuracy. And he played the move e4, and this is where things are getting extremely interesting because he's opening up the center with his king in the center, but also my king is in the center. So it's not sure what's going on. I probably should have played castles. I was worried about the move e5, and then I have to move my knight to some unfortunate square like e8 or d7. But I just missed during the game that I can just take on c4, and I can just jump my knight to d5, and that's obviously a beautiful square for the knight. So I should have just castled, but my semi-Slav intuition kicked in a little bit here. And normally when someone plays e4, you take an e4, and you try to play the move e5, which is a very common theme in many semi-Slav positions. However, with e5 there were some issues, but during the game I didn't like the move knight f5, which is I think one of the first AlphaZero similarities we get here, because we know AlphaZero likes strong outposts for his knight, and f5 is one of his beloved squares. So I was a bit hesitant to give him this square that easily, and as you can see, it's very annoying because it's attacking g7 and threatening to take my bishop, and it's all a bit unclear. But okay, when I analyze later, it's apparently I could just castle here, d5, and I could take with the queen, and even queen takes b7 shouldn't be such a problem for some reason, because he comes up with some crazy moves, bishop c5, and after bishop f4, I have the beautiful knight takes e4. I mean, it's complete madness if he takes the queen. Obviously, bishop f2 is checkmate. But I didn't have the guts to allow this queen takes b7 line. So long story short, because this game can easily get me carried away. So long story short, I didn't trust e5, and probably he can take on e5 first. And I didn't want to take with the queen. I was planning to go knight d7 and take with the knight on e5. But then knight f5 is just a strong move, attacking once again these two here. And bishop f8, bishop f4, and white is simply dominating the position. Because the queen still needs to cover this b7 pawn. And I don't have an easy way to recapture on e5. So that's what's up with e5. So I thought, well, maybe if I want to play e5, I need to stop this knight f5 idea. So I decided to play a move which I thought was quite clever, but it just turns out to be bad. I played knight fd7 and I thought, well, this is very clever because I threatened to take the knight on h4, which stops this entire knight f5 plan, and after that I can just push e5 anyway. And my knight is already like en route to c5 once this pawn gets removed or either goes to d5. So I was quite happy with my plan here. If only I paid enough attention to what AlphaZero always does. And that's what he also did. He simply ignored the threat of bishop takes h4, which turns out not to be a threat at all. He plays bishop g2, and he just intends to castle kingside. So I took an h4 because if I go knight e7, I have to take an h4. There's no point. Else there's no point in playing that move. I took an h4, and this is typical AlphaZero. He allows doubling of his pawns on the king side, even allows his own king to be weak temporarily, but that opens up files against my king, and that can get me into trouble later on. And also there's this thing about the piece mobility of the pieces. I think there's a comparison between the mobility of the pieces from AlphaZero compared to those of Stockfish, and AlphaZero always likes to keep his pieces as mobile as possible. And well, the white pieces are doing okay. The black pieces are, well, I mean, they're just a bit awkward, to be honest. So that's another thing that wasn't really working in my favor. So I played e5 because I thought, well, I have to stick to the plan. And if I don't play e5 myself, he might play e5, and that gives him this e4 square for probably a knight jumping to d6. I mean, that's just looking terrible. So I played e5. He went d5. I castled, and he played bishop e3. And here I was already a bit stuck because I didn't really see what to do. He has the pair of bishops. He has open files against my king. He's not using it yet, but he will later on. And I decided to close the position with c5, which looks just terrible, and it also felt terrible during the game, and it actually is a terrible move because I'm just stuck right now. I got nothing. I'm just a sitting duck. So he castled. I played knight b6, and I was dreaming of a position someday where my knight gets to d6. I can play b6 and f6 to strengthen my pawn center, and then I will be like reasonably happy, which is probably completely unjustified. But I mean, I needed a plan at least, so I went for this. But my position is already collapsing. He went rook f5, which is just a good move, attacking. I mean, this queen is busy. It has too many things to do. It needs to cover c5, e5, sometimes even b7. And it's just a bit too much for the queen, especially when you realize that there's a knight coming, a pawn coming, and all kind of threats are there just instantly. So I went bishop g6, he went rook g5, knight 8 d7, and this is the first moment where we could have had another AlphaZero-like moment, so to speak. He could have played h5, and well, I only have one move basically. I have to go f6 because else my bishop is just trapped, and now he can just take on g6, takes. And I was planning here to go f5 because, I mean, if I give him the time to bring his queen to h5 and deliver checkmate, well, I shouldn't allow that, of course. So I decided if I go f5 and create some space on the king side to bring my pieces, like maybe my queen like this, bring my knight here, that things should be okay. But he could just take, and simply play knight e4. I mean, look at the white position, it's just beautiful. He has two beautiful bishops, he has a gorgeous knight. The queen is not that happy yet, same goes for the rook. But this pawn is gorgeous, and my pieces are they're just stuck. I mean, there's this bishop h3 e6 coming. My knights are awkward. Queen is out of position. Rook not joining the game. And, well, long story short, white is probably just completely winning here. And that's just what AlphaZero does as well. He doesn't care about material. He just wants active pieces and open up files and diagonals towards the black king. And that's simply what he does here. And he was calculating this. He showed me after the game, and I thought, well, maybe there's some concrete lines where I can keep my position together, but just this quiet move knight e4, and it's just complete domination. So that was his first chance, and there will be many more chances. But he played knight b5, queen d8, and bishop f3, which is probably just a bad move. Once again, h5 is a good idea. Going for the same plan as I just showed you. Bishop f3 is a bit slow, and now I can win a pawn on h4, which isn't that important, but at least I got a pawn. And I can free myself a little bit. My bishop on g6 is somewhat safe now. But still, I'm not out of danger, not even close. He went knight d6, which is quite a funny square for the knight because it's very strong there, and it's covering this pawn, it's attacking this pawn. It might even go to f5, so the knight has a beautiful square on d6. I went rook a b8 to protect b7. He went king h1, which is not the best move. Okay. I went queen f6, and here's a second. Well, we have a few more AlphaZero-like positions already, but here he had another chance to show some of AlphaZero's strategies here. He went knight b5, but he should have gone knight f5, which makes perfect sense because if we remember the attacking games of AlphaZero, he likes to have open files against the opponent king and also combine it with open diagonals. And this knight f5 is doing both basically. I should probably just well, take the knight with the bishop. It makes the most sense, to be honest. But now if you take for the queen, I can simply capture the pawn on h6, so that doesn't work. But as you can see, the g file is open now. The bishop on g6 is gone, and he's starting to lack defenders, and the black king is going to be in danger very soon. So, for example, the move king h8, and now white can just simply bring his queen to the action. Queen c2, rook g8, rook g1, and I'm just stuck. My knights are silly. I can't really do anything. This rook can't really defend. My queen is also in danger, as you can see, because let's say I'll play the move knight c8 here, for example, to well try to execute my my plan with knight d6. He can play the strong move bishop g5, and which I cannot take because rook h3 will at least win the queen and probably just win the game in a few more moves. So he has to go queen d6 and now rook h3, and as you can see, after a move like f6, white has two diagonals towards the black king and two semi-open files. I mean, that's just devastating. This is like typical AlphaZero stuff. And yeah, during this game, it really struck me how strong this whole strategy is. And I mean, I'm not a defender like Stockfish, so I probably just lose in a few moves with this amount of pressure. So yeah, knight f5, typical move, and I'm glad he didn't play it. He went knight b5, a6, knight c3, but still, he still gets more chances to execute these ideas. Queen e7, bishop g4, rook g8, and here he went berserk because here he played d6, and that was just a pawn sacrifice that didn't bring him anything at all, and it was just one pawn sack too many. And here he once again should have played bishop f5. Same idea, trying to open up files and diagonals towards the black king. If I take, pawn takes. And I was looking at the game, during the game I was looking at the move g5, which looks a bit strange, but I thought, well, it's one way to release the pressure on g7. But here he has this very strong move, f6. It's just the same plan over and over again, opening up diagonals towards the black king. Queen f6, knight e4, queen f5, queen d3, threatening all kinds of discovered checks, winning the queen. King h8 and rook h3, and this is just terrible. I'm looking at the position right now and I'm realizing that this rook is not defended, but I'm pretty sure the engine gave this as a win for white. But now I start to question if that's correct. Maybe I should have played rook f1 first. Maybe I analyzed this a bit too quickly. But even this followed by the rook here, it's probably just winning in so many ways. And maybe there's even some tactic of the rook h3. I'm not even sure. I should have checked this a bit better probably, but as I said, I got a bit too carried away with this game. And but it's just interesting to see how white improves his piece mobility as much as he can, while my pieces are. I mean, the knights haven't done anything the last, I don't know, like 10, 15 moves. So that's just it's just bad, and the consequences are just it's just too much for black here. So that's how he should have played. Well, he played d6, and I mean it's unfortunate for him because he could and maybe should have won this game in so many different ways. But now he changed his play to the queen side, and I got to release some of the pressure, and being up 2 pawns, I actually managed to survive. I have to admit though, we were in time trouble from move 20 onwards, so we didn't really have a lot of time to think about our moves because the opening was already very difficult. But here I managed to free myself, and he went for this piece sacrifice, but it doesn't quite work because I can just run away with the king, and being up the rook, I'm just defending quite comfortably here because as soon as the knight joins the action on d5, I can just capture the knight. And here, rook g8. It's a nice little picture where the knight is unprotected and attacked by 2 pieces, but both are pinned and will be exchanged, and then the endgame is obviously easily winning. So this was my opponent playing in like AlphaZero like fashion. And I mean, reading the book is one thing, and you read everything, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, looks logical. But once you get it in your own games and you experience the consequences and the power of these ideas, then you realize how good this can be, and how much we can learn from the playing style of AlphaZero, and also the book, of course, the Game Changer book by Matthew Sadler and Natasha Regan. So if you haven't bought it yet, buy it, read it, and you won't regret it. It's just good stuff, and yeah, I hope I can implement this whole AlphaZero stuff for myself instead of being on the receiving end of all this all these aggressive ideas. And I hope you enjoyed this little game review, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I will thank you for watching.